The other day I was hanging out with some buddies and they were on their phones looking at stuff and they were sharing the phone back and forth. And I said, "What are you guys looking at?" And they pulled up an Amazon sheet that had this on it. And they were looking at all the specifications. When it comes to this thing, the specifications look good. This is the Hosim Vortan, and they handed me the phone. I had to look at it and I was like, you know, helical gears, it's brushless, it's a 3660 motor, it's got a fan for the motor. It all looked really good. So my curiosity was piqued. I went ahead and pulled it up on my phone and I ordered one. It came in yesterday and here it is in the box. This is pretty cool looking. It's supposed to be 8 scale. This isn't the first Hosim we've had here at the channel. I hope they got this one right. It looks really good on the box and the video showed it doing some cool stuff. Let's see what it's got. Check this out. All right, so let's get this thing out of the box. Okay, this is weird, but let's do this. Okay, so that's interesting. It does have the EXB colors on it as far as the armor stuff goes. This has the same coloring as the EXB. Let's see what we got here. There we go. Kind of hooks up on the wing. There we go. Okay, and then we get the radio box. So let's see what we got here. And of course, it does have the typical radio for Hosim. And we have a packet, so there's our packet. We'll go through that here in a minute. But let's have a look at this. Okay. So have a look at that. It's pretty cool. It does have top protectors here, and it's got a pretty serious bumper with lights. The wing looks like it's pretty sturdy. Has wheelie bars on the back. It's got the aluminum chassis. Those look an awful lot like RPM style arms. And they're supposed to be nylon, so that should make them pretty tough and durable. Wait a minute. It's like there's no oil in the shocks or anything. It's just bouncy. Oh, wait a minute. There's another problem. At least it looks like one. See if you can watch these front wheels. See what happens here. As it compresses the suspension, these turn outward. Okay. That just means that they didn't get their system set up correctly in there so that it would keep the same distance from the hinge points and the steering links. So it causes that. Interesting. Before we get into the car, however, let's go over the radio and this. All right, so let's begin with the radio. And this is a very simple radio. There's nothing on the front. There's nothing on the back as far as adjustments goes. They're all up top here. And you have your trims up top here. You have your reversing for those two, and on and off, and that's it. The trigger springs, they feel pretty normal, and as far as steering goes, that's not too bad either. A little bit tight, but other than that, if it functions, it's usable. All right, beyond that, it comes with the manual, and the manual has all kinds of neat things in it that you're going to need, especially part numbers, troubleshooting. It's all in there. Everything, how to set the radio up and everything is in this one. Hang on to that. It has a waterproof bag for whatever you want to carry in that. It also comes with a toolkit, and that's a pretty basic toolkit. It's got a lug wrench in there, it's got some extra lanyards, and a couple of screwdrivers in there. So it has those. It actually comes with a charger, and this is a USB charger. I generally shy away from these, but a lot of them do work. So it does come with that, and of course it does have the battery in the car itself, so you don't have to buy a LiPo for this one. It actually comes with an extra strap for the battery in case you have problems with the original one, and that's what comes in the kit. All right, as far as the RC itself goes, it looks pretty cool, but they call this 8th scale. Okay, it doesn't look 8th scale to me, and I know scale's kind of it's a relative term. Each company gets to kind of pick their own scale, but when they call it 8th scale and you're used to seeing all of the regular RCs on the market, this one doesn't seem to actually be that size. Still, at the same time, it does tout some pretty cool things. So let's get the body off it real quick, and we'll go over what we see inside of it. There we go. And of course, it does have the protectors, and that's about it. Standard Lexan body. It does have a skin on there that you have to peel because it's a protective coating for shipping. Don't forget to get that off. It'll make it shine a little better. It does have the battery inside of it. So this is the battery right here, and this is a LiPo. And we showed that to you a minute ago, so that's good. It does have a combo unit right here, and a combo unit is the ESC and the radio system all in one thing. So it's all right on here. The on switch is right on the side, and it should be just enough to handle this battery, which still at the same time, this is 3S. It should get busy when you pull the trigger. It does have a 3660 motor on it, so that's going to spin pretty fast. As I remember, a lot of my Armors came with 3200 kV, and they were nice and torquey and quick, so this should do that as well. So that's all good things. The bumper is substantial, and it does have the concussion rings, so you can see the concussion rings there. So that part of it looks pretty good. It does have all metal shock absorbers, but you saw the bounce test, right? So when you bounce it, there's like no fluid in there or something. The springs that come with it, they're a little too heavy, so it does overpower the fluid and it causes problems. And there's one other thing I noticed. So let's get you down on the bench here, and I'll show you what it is. What it comes down to is pretty simple. So when you take a look at this, when this compresses, okay, the front wheels fork out, and that's not good. That's just this designed improperly, but it may not affect handling too much. We'll find out during our running of it, but when you depress it like this should not toe out in this way. So there's something wrong with the design there, but here's the thing. Watch this bounce. See how that bounces? Okay, it's even worse in the back. Here we go. See that bounce? Okay, what that is the springs back here are overpowering the oil, and it causes quick recoil. That's because 1, the springs are probably too big, or 2, the shocks don't have thick enough fluid in there. Either way, it comes, these are adjusted all the way to the top here, okay? So these are all the way up, but at the same time, it doesn't crouch at all. It brings it all the way to the top, so there's basically no adjustment in that. That's not okay. And watch this. All the way down, and the chassis does not hit. So that means when you hit the ground, and I'll show you from the front, look at the distance. There's still gap there. When you hit the ground, all of the power goes against the suspension and the shock tower. Everything gets transferred through the shocks into the shock tower, instead of the chassis being able to absorb some of the impact. I don't know what that's going to do as far as its ability to absorb impact, what its durability is going to be, but I prefer to have mine be able to hit the ground when you compress them all the way to try and suck up a little of that inertia and energy. At the same time, with a little lighter spring, you might not have that, which is a problem. Okay, so now that we've gone over the car, what you get, it looks pretty good, and internally it's supposed to have all metal gearing with the helical cut on the differentials and stuff, which should make them pretty durable. It's interesting to say the very least, but there's one more thing I want to show you down here on the bench, and it really comes down to what is scale. So check this out. So there's the Vortan, right? And we're going to go, first we'll do it this direction. And this is a 10th scale RC we're going to put it against here. So this is the Vortex from Arma, and this is the Boost. And look at the difference. Is there a difference? They're exactly the same wheelbase, except the Arma's wider. So it's got the same wheelbase. Let's change it around a little so you can see the difference. There's the Vortan up front. There's the Vortex in the back. The difference? They call this one 8th scale. They call this one 10th scale. To be fair, let's switch them. Because the one closest to the camera always seems bigger, you can see they're exactly the same wheelbase, tire for tire, they're the same. Height for height, they're the same. Distance for distance, the only thing hanging out of the back of this one is the wing. Body for body, they're exactly the same size. 10th scale, 8th scale, let's put it up against an 8th scaler and see what the real difference is. Okay, so if this is supposed to be 8th scale, okay, this one's supposed to be 8th scale, this one is 8th scale, okay, look at the difference. Now on the right, this is the Kraton EXB 6S, okay, this is the 6S model, it's 8th scale. This is the Hosim model, touted as 8th scale. Let's be honest, this is not 8th scale, but the thing is when you see this in the pictures, it looks a lot bigger than it is, and they call it 8th scale, but it's really not. It's really a lot smaller. So just so you know, 8th scale, real 8th scale, Hosim 8th scale. All right, let's get on with the video. All right, so I don't really know what to think about this. 8th scale? No. This is 10th scale all day long. It is what it is, and I think they just marked it wrong. The problem is, it's a sucker's bet. When you get online and you look at it, the pictures make it look enormous. It looks big, and if you have any experience with RC, you know how big 8th scalers are supposed to be. So this is 10th scale. Let's be real. That's a 10th scale RC. It is what it is, marketed as an 8th scale. Okay. Still, at the same time, this comes with everything you need except the 4 batteries for the radio. It has everything else, including a charger, which is pretty cool. Still, at the same time, we don't know how it's going to handle. Maybe the front wheels aren't going to be such a big deal when it compresses. I know it's not going to handle super well with the suspension set the way it is, but now we've got to take it out and we've got to test it. And the thing about that is, if you watch the channel, you know how we do that. We don't do any modifications at all for the RC. I don't care whether the wheels fall off or whatever. This is what you get out of the box. And if you're new to the hobby, you're going to get a battery in it and you're going to go see what it does. That's just the way that works. So we test them in that way. So this one, we're going to charge it up, or we're going to take it out and we're going to see what it can do. Then we're going to bring it back inside and we're going to ask our 4 questions. And if you watch the channel, you know what they are. Is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? Which isn't really all that much. And what's the total points here at the channel? You know, for the cost of it, it might be pretty cool. I'm a little bit hesitant on that one. Only time will tell. Check this out. Wow. Oh, yeah. Awesome. All right, so there's the running footage for the Vortan from Hosim, and I'm going to hit the obvious right off the bat. In the fun scale, I'm going to pull 3 points off of that because this is not what I thought I ordered. I ordered an 8th scale RC, And this is what I got. So it actually changed the whole mood of the run because this was not what I had ordered. At least I thought I ordered an 8 scale and got 10 scale. That being said, we're going to put that behind us now, and we're going to get into what we think of this. Now, we did run it more than you saw. We did have some camera failures, and we ran it in a couple of different locations besides what you saw. We hit the ramp some with it, and we ran it out in the yard. And we also ran it on pavement, and I wish I could have kept that footage, but it is what it is, so this is what we're stuck with. Still, at the same time, we only have one failing, and that is in the wing here. So the wing is broken on both sides, and it wasn't so bad. I mean, it has standard cartwheels and stuff, but this wing is not as pliable as, say, the Arma wings that they're putting on their stuff, or the Traxxas wings, especially the sledge wing. They're real pliable. This is more of a harder plastic. It's not as durable, so it doesn't hold up as well. Still, I should be able to order a replacement, so that shouldn't be a big deal. This is hobby grade, so there's that. As far as power goes, it actually had plenty of snap, and I had a couple of things that I was really concerned with. The first was these toe out when the suspension compresses, so when you get this action, the wheel turns outward, and that's on both sides, so it turns away like that. The thing is, that didn't really seem to affect it much. On asphalt, it drove nice and straight. In the dirt, it ran straight and true, but the thing is, when you come down like this, the wheel would turn out and it would pull it back onto its legs. So that made it really nice as far as that goes, because every time you came down, it was like it steered into the drop, and it would pull it back down. This one actually landed on its wheels way more than a lot of the 10 scalers that I have, and it was a lot more fun in that category as far as that goes. But it does have one interesting thing. Now, first off, on the shock absorbers, it is bouncy. I mean, it could be tuned, but as far as the rough terrain we were playing within and stuff, it actually handled pretty good. I was really surprised at how well this handled, but I know why part of that is. And it's literally this. This is what it is. So if you turn these, they go real easy. So it's like this one to that one. Just wide open diffs, front, back, middle. It's like there's no lube in there. They're just open differentials. Now, you can hate on that if you want to, but it actually makes it handle really well. And what it is every time it has a chance to spin out really bad, it'll burn off a little power to one of the lighter weighted wheels. So in other words, when you're turning left and this front end comes up a little bit, it'd spin this wheel some, bleed off a little extra power, which allowed you to keep control. Now, that did do wonders for the car as far as how things handled. The open differentials worked really good. Playing with it in the driveway, it was, you pin it, the front tires would spin, but it would still accelerate good and hard. So on that, it worked really well. So the open differential system, I really do like that. And I grew up when that was kind of the thing anyway, so it felt like home on that. So that was good. As far as the way a 10th scaler handles, this one falls right into the category with the other ones. It's got a nice long wheelbase, just like the Vortex. And it handles very much the same way, at least the experience we've had here with it does. I haven't dug into anything, but what I did notice was 3 batteries in, the wheels started coming loose. So we kept the factory nuts and stuff. We did a little check before we went on to the 3rd battery, and things felt pretty snug. But then I noticed they were looking a little bit loose and checked them again. During the 3rd run, they did need to be tightened up. Mostly this one, but basically all 4 needed to be snugged down. So if you're going to get one of these, make sure to recheck the wheels. And that should be on every RC you get anyway. But this one did hold up for 2 batteries, which makes you think, okay, they got everything tight on the 3rd battery. As things start to season up, it definitely needed some tuning. Now that's okay. The radial gear really handled well, even though when we got started with this, during the rev test especially, if you watch back to that and listen, and we'll run it for you here, you'll notice that there is a hiccup in the speed control. So it'll tack all the way up, and then it'll stutter, and then it runs again. And I thought that was going to be a real issue because it shouldn't stutter, especially this close to the car. I mean, I was literally 3 feet from the car running the rev test when it did it. But once I got out there and started running it around, I noticed it not again. So it might be doing it, but it didn't seem to be detrimental to the actual running of the RC. Still, if it's doing it, that's probably going to be a problem in the future. But I didn't notice it during the runs that I got to play with it on. And it really is a tough little car, because we did all kinds of weird stuff with this. Cartwheeled, tumbled, come off the ramps, landed on asphalt. I am really upset that I didn't get to keep the footage, but at the same time, we ran it for all that, and this is all there is to it. It held up really good. It cartwheeled, it tumbled, it came down on the corners. We didn't hit any standing objects. In other words, no posts, no curbs, no fire hydrants, no trees. We didn't hit anything with it. And that's partially because we pay attention to where we're running, so we try to stay away from objects that'll destroy things. But at the same time, you saw us run down in the little canyon areas and stuff, and it's full pin. Let's get this thing up and see what it'll do, but check the area first to make sure you know what's going on. That one little canyon had a ravine down the bottom. I knew that was going to be a thing, and when it hit, it came down really hard in the corner right here, but everything is still working perfectly. It doesn't feel bad at all, so that's all good things. One thing I did notice about it was, from the get-go, the gearing seemed a little bit loud, and if you take and hold one wheel solid and rotate the other one here, you can feel a little bit of slack in that, and it's probably from there to there as far as how much slack is in it. I'd say this one definitely needs to be shimmed, but we never do any wrenching until we run our out-of-the-box video. The front one, that one feels a lot better than the back one, so we may need to shim the back to get rid of that, but it sounded a little aggressive when we got it out of the box. And we left it so you could hear some stuff in the running footage, and you should have heard the coarse grind. It wasn't grind, but it's kind of a coarse sound when it was running. And I really wish it was smoother, and I'll get into that, and I will check it later to try and tune that out of it. But right out of the box, it sounded a little rough, but it did run good, and everything handled the way it was supposed to. All right, so now it's time to get into our 4 questions. And if you watch the channel, you know what they are. Is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? And what's the total points here at the channel? You know, the Vortan, once I got it out and started playing with it, I did have a pretty good time with it. However, that's not the good time I was planning when I bought the RC in the first place. Like I said earlier, we're going to pull 3 points for that, because it did put a huge damper on how much fun we were going to have with it, because I was looking for bigger. So -3 for that on the fun. It controlled good, and it landed on its wheels quite a bit. It did have a little issue with the radio to start with, but that was here on the bench. But keep in mind that everything that we do with this counts in the fun category. It's not just what happens when it's out on the track or out playing with it. You have to work on these things too. And one thing that I noticed was, even though it came with a LiPo battery, it didn't run all that long. Each charge went maybe 10 or 12 minutes, tops. And then it was time to go charge it. Now keep in mind, that is a small LiPo battery that runs 3S. So being the size that it is, you can get a more high capacity battery to put in it that would fix it, but we always test it with what comes in the box. And so when you'd run out of battery that soon, that did cut into the fun a little bit as well. The overall experience, if you take 3, that brings us down to 7. If you take another one off for the battery life, we're down to 6 points for fun. Now, that's a pretty low score, but at the same time, it was caused by legitimate reasons. So we're going to go with fun, 6 points for fun. And question number 2, is this thing durable? Well, overall, yes, it seems to be very durable with everything we put it through, and we had some pretty hard landings. This took it like a champ. It did have problems with the wing, so it broke in several locations, so the wing didn't hold up very well, and that's unfortunate that the wheels did come loose. And that's kind of a durability issue too, because if we hadn't caught it, we'd have lost parts. Still, at the same time, we know what we're doing here, so we were able to repair it before we did lose anything, but that still cost it a point, because they should be tight enough from the factory. And that's just the way we see it. If you see it different, that's fine, but that's the way we run this kind of stuff. So this one, for durability, it gets 8 out of 10 for durability, because was it perfect? No. Was it fun? Yeah, but it still wasn't perfect. And question number 3, value. Is this thing worth the money? Well, it came in at right around $230 complete. All you needed was 4 batteries for the transmitter, and you were up and running. It has a USB charger. It comes with a LiPo battery. Everything you need to run except the AA batteries is there. However, you can get one of these when this is the boost for the same money. So this comes with the radio, comes with the motor, but this one's brushed, doesn't come with the battery, doesn't come with the charger, and it's two-wheel drive out of the box. You have to add parts to it. So that being said, you actually get more from this one than you get from this one. The difference being, this is supposed to be a much bigger RC than it is. Still, to get up and running and have this be as tough as it is for 230 plus, we're going to give this one 9 out of 10 for value, because even though they kind of lied on the box as to what it is, what you get still works pretty good. And question number 4, what's the total points here at the channel for the Hosim Vortan? Well, when we got through everything and did our math, we came up to 23 points for total score here at the channel, and it could have done better. It really could have. They cost themselves points when they labeled it incorrectly. An 8th scale RC is much bigger than this, but that just seems to be like a sales ploy, because I don't know that I would have paid that for it if I knew it was 10th scale, because I have plenty of those. I wanted something bigger, and I still got this. So they could have done better, and maybe they will in the future, but at the same time, what you get is worth the money. Therefore, 23 out of 30 for total score. So if you haven't already, don't forget to bash that like button and help our content spread. Whether you agree with us or you don't agree with us, this is our take on this particular RC. Maybe yours is better, maybe yours is worse. You never know. When you mass produce things, you get what you get when they come out of the box, and that's just the way things go. We always check things with what you get. Now, just to clarify, if it comes with a battery, that's the battery we run, period. We don't add anything to it. If we had one that was 3S capable but was shipped with a 2S battery, and we tested it with the 2S battery because that's what came with it, but we got run over the coals for not putting a 3S in it. If a car shows up without a battery and we have to provide the battery, then we provide the maximum battery it'll take. That's the way we do it. But if it shows up with a battery, that's what we run. This came with the small 3S battery that's in it, and that actually wound up costing it, even though the value was there, it wound up costing it because it didn't have very much runtime. It's a really small capacity battery, and they just could have done better there. As far as everything else goes, there's room for upgrades. There really is. There's room for tuning on the suspension, possibly changing the spring ratio so you got a little lighter spring so that it will crouch a little so that you can actually set your droop where you want it without stiffening up the springs. There's oil changes that can be done. We'll look into the differentials and see if you can swap the fluids in those. There's potential to do more with it, but right out of the box, it's still a lot of fun. If you have a Vortan and you've had good or bad experiences with it, please feel free to get down in the comments and help others along the way. For AJ Jam Studios, I'm AJ saying, keep bashing.